Coming up to 8:10, you're watching BBC Breakfast. Now, the actor Martin Clunes has been dropped as a patron of an animal welfare charity, the Born Free Foundation, after he rode an elephant in Nepal while filming a documentary.
He faced fierce criticism after climbing onto the animal during an episode of My Travels and Other Animals on ITV. Well, from swimming with dolphins to camel treks, donkey rides and petting monkeys, animals play a part in many of our holidays. But can it ever be entirely cruelty-free? Here's what some of our viewers have had to say.
I'm more against it than for it. I mean, overall, fair enough, yeah, it's a good idea, it brings in tourism. But I think the animals kind of suffer for it more, so it's not really worth it, is it?
I think if it's done humanely, I mean, presumably it's necessary for the local economy, so I have split feelings about it, but I'd rather people didn't need to do that in order for the local economy to flourish.
There's nothing wrong in that, actually, because these elephants are being taken care of. It's not like they are trying to maltreat them or treat them locally. They treat them fine, they give them good things, and they're happy, everybody's happy.
I've never done it, don't think everyone will do it. Disagree with people who do it, and yeah, I hope it gets stopped soon, I guess.
Well, let's get some more on all of this with Nick Stewart from the charity World Animal Protection. Morning to you. Also Emma Brennan from the Association of British Travel Agents, who's in central London this morning. Thanks both for joining us. Nick, let's just talk about what your reaction when you saw what Martin Clunes had done.
Sure. I mean, well, it's pretty appalling, really, that you know, a celebrity who is a patron of an animal charity and is clearly an animal lover and an ambassador for animals, you know, really should have known better with this. I mean, I suppose it shows in some ways that even if you're a celebrity, even if you're an animal lover, it's quite easy to get taken in by this kind of stuff because much of the cruelty is hidden. You know, in the case of elephants, when an elephant is presented to you as a tourist, you know, you can see in this clip here that it looks like it's docile, it looks like that it's happy to be ridden. Actually, there is a whole story of cruelty behind how that elephant has got into the situation. It involves a very cruel training process of breaking the elephant's spirits, which may involve chaining the elephants for long periods, for weeks on end. It may involve food deprivation. It may involve the use of sharp tools and implements to really establish dominance over the animal. So, you know, really, you know, Martin Clunes should have known better. But it's quite clear that in these situations, it's easy, even for animal lovers. And many people are motivated by a love of animals to get taken in by this industry.
Let's go speak to Emma Brennan then. From an ABTA point of view, do you advise travel companies about this sort of animal tourism and specifically riding animals?
Absolutely. We have guidelines on animals in tourism which cover a whole range of animals and also activities. But in particular, we do discourage any contact with dangerous wild animals, which does include riding elephants. Even, you know, people have the opportunity to take selfies with big cats, stroke tigers. We discourage those practices. We discourage our members from selling them, and we also discourage holidaymakers from taking part in those activities as well. And many travel companies have stopped selling these sort of activities and are looking at offering a responsible alternative.
I just want to, while we go on with this interview as well, give the response from Martin Clunes. A statement attributed to him says, "I'd like to do whatever I can for Born Free whenever I'm asked. I love Born Free Foundation. It steps in when there's animal facing cruelty, abuse or unfairness of any kind, any animal in any place." And it also goes on to say, "It's a truly unique resource for wildlife conservation with a knowledge base built on years of work." And you said, didn't you, that he, you know, as you say, it's clearly, you know, it was important to him to be part of this charity, clearly an animal lover. And what other things should people who feel the same way, who, you know, very concerned about animals, watch out for?
So, I mean, we have a very simple message for tourists or celebrities that are looking to have a wild animal experience. If you can hug it, if you can ride it, if you can have a selfie with it, if you can, you know, swim with it, you know, in the instance of a dolphin in a captive environment, it's very likely that animal is being subjected to cruelty and suffering. So our message really is to avoid that. You know, if tourists avoid paying for these types of experiences, then it will send a clear signal that this is not acceptable, and it will start to encourage change on the ground. If you want to see a wild animal, always go and see it in the wild with a responsible tour operator in a well-managed situation, or go to a genuine wildlife-friendly venue or an animal sanctuary. And if a venue is wildlife friendly, what that will mean is basically they're offering an observation only experience, whereas a tourist, you can have the experience of watching something like an elephant just be an elephant. You know, what can be better than that?
So essentially what you're saying is it's probably, from your point of view, it's never ethical to ride an animal, essentially.
Yeah, any wild animal in captivity will be having its, its well-being compromised, and essentially if you're doing something like riding with it, if you're interacting with it, if you're swimming with it, it will have been subjected to some kind of cruelty, or it will be suffering in living conditions that just don't provide for its needs.
Just from APTA's point of view, Emma, are there other activities that you're recommending that travel companies offer?
There's lots of things that travel businesses are offering as an alternative, which is including some of the things that Nick just said there, whereas being able to experience animals from a safe distance. But we also know that some of our members are actually working with some of the suppliers who currently perhaps offer some of these activities that we wouldn't necessarily support, by saying to them, our customers don't want to go to these things, we don't want to sell them, so can we work with you to develop an alternative where the animals are protected, they're looked after, but people can enjoy them from a responsible distance.
Emma Brennan, Association of British Travel Agents, thank you very much. Nick Stewart, Head of Wildlife at the World Animal Protection. Thank you both for coming to chat to us.
I just want to come back to Nick on, so even like swimming with dolphins, out in the ocean somewhere, would you advise against that sort of thing? Because lots of people, I just wanted to clear that up, because many people watching might be thinking, OK, what about, I can understand maybe in a captive environment, but what about something like that? Yeah,
we would always advise, both from a health and safety perspective and from an animal welfare perspective, not to swim with dolphins, even in the wild. I mean, what might seem like quite a passive or benign activity for your once-in-a-lifetime experience, I mean, you've got to remember, from my perspective or your perspective, it's 20 minutes in the water. It's the whole industry around it that once you've gone home, that pod of dolphins may be subjected on an ongoing basis to basically the commercialisation of wildlife. So, any number of boats, any number of tourists, any number of times in that day, for that whole, for the lifetime of that animal will be subjected to that. So it does have animal welfare implications, and, we think it also has health and safety implications as well.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're watching Breakfast. It's just after 15:15, and it's time for the weather. And Carol is with she's out and about in St James's Park, which is looking